Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing good today. And I wanted to apologize, first of all, for not being able to start the class on time, which is on Thursday, and we have to move it to Friday. I had an emergency yesterday with my computer, and I had to get it done, get it fixed, and then I can start with the class. All right, now let us go straight to business. Today, we are going to talk about data interpretation and analysis for literary criticism or literary research, okay? And for that, today I will show you just one example first in this video and another example in another video of how you conduct the data analysis on this one will be the descriptive qualitative method. If you use this design, this is how you will do this, all right? Now let me share my screen with you. Here it is, right? Here we will talk about, as I mentioned earlier, how to do the interpretation of your data in descriptive qualitative research. And if you remember, descriptive qualitative research means your method is oriented towards explaining a phenomenon in literary work, and to explain that you use qualitative data. And by qualitative data here, I mean quotes, sentences, or words maybe, or summary of plot from the story. And how do you do that? In this video, I will show you how to do that step by step. First of all, you need to know the general tools of the steps when you do data analysis for descriptive qualitative approach or descriptive qualitative method. And this is how you will do this. First of all, remember that our main tool is what we call a hermeneutic, or here we do hermeneutic through close reading. The activity of close reading is something that I believe you are now already familiar. And we apply close reading when we do literal reading and also in inferential reading. And when we do close reading, it means we read a passage, a sentence, or phrases or a word from a text and make a meaning out of that by explaining that, by relating it to a phenomenon outside, or by understanding at the level of words, what the words mean, what it might give explanation to, or what it might refer to. So that's what we will do. And here, the steps include, first of all, you have to decipher its literal meaning. You have to understand its literal meaning. But then after that, you go to read between the lines to get to the inferential meaning or implicit meaning of that text. And our questions are mostly inferential questions, which means questions that you cannot find the answer easily by reading the text. You have to read between the lines in order to answer those questions. So the process of reading between the lines or making meanings out of clues on the text is our main job in doing close reading. And after you read, you try to find patterns that you find in those passages. Maybe there are some similarities in one passage and another, and you might also find differences between one part in the text and another part. And you take notes of this, I would say, connections, okay? If you find these connections, and if you take notes of this connection, then you will go further. You will be able to go further into the next step. All right. Now, after you collect the patterns or finding the patterns, now you explain what those patterns are. And when we explain the patterns or topics, we Also, we need to find the actual evidence from the text to explain that patterns. And we need to, first of all, we need to be able to explain that in our own words. That is important, first of all. You have to explain it in your own words and in your own logic to explain a passage or a text that might be related to the question that you have asked as the research question or research problem. And in addition to that, you will also need to explain that in the light of theories, with the help of concepts, theories that you learn in, for example, a literary appreciation class. But of course, what Pak Dono has taught you in literary appreciation class is not all, okay? In the world, if you want to explain certain things, you cannot rely on only Marxism, feminism, psychoanalysis, post-colonial, and so on. There are many other concepts that you might be able to use to explain certain phenomenon in a literary work. All right. Now let's move on to the next one. And this next one, after you try to explain this, then you take notes of these things that you have explained and try to find the optimum meaning, the explanation for the question that you have asked, okay? You find this optimum meaning, the most reasonable explanation for things, for the quotes, or for the patterns, or for the phenomenon, and keep that with you, because that is what actually you have found from the text, and that is your contribution in explaining the questions, or in understanding the text better. Because at the beginning of this section, I told you that the paradigm of literary research or literary criticism is to understand a text better. And this, if you have summarized what you explain in your own words and what you explain using the theories, then this is your contribution. This is your finding. This is your argument. And take notes of these things as you analyze your data. All right. While it might have sounded quite abstract, now let me show you the actual example of how these ideas work in real life. And this is your assertion or argument, as I mentioned to you. This is your contribution to understanding the text. All right, now let us go to the technical steps, which I hope will give you a clearer idea of what you do when you do a literary research. First of all, we come to this text again. You know this text, and one of the questions that we asked was, what kind of society does this character live, or what kind of society do they live, okay? Now, we need to attempt to explain that society by looking at the text, seeing clues, and explaining these clues to come up with a description. For example, from this paragraph alone, we can find three sets of data, three passages that we can use as data. The first one is this line where it says, Xianing was governed by a despotic leader who, the warrior, had a great and cowardly shrinking from anything suggestive of failing health and strength. Blah, blah, blah. From here, we can see that, okay, the society is led by somebody who is, who thinks physical power is more important than mental power. So physical property is more important than anything else. That's why when physical property doesn't look good, the leader here is, he's afraid of that, or he hates that. And the next sentence here might also explain what kind of society they live in. the entire province was given strict orders to immediately put to death all aged people. All right, this is unusual, right? A leader, what kind of leader would ask people do that? But the next sentence is, those were barbarous days, and the custom of abandoning old people to die was not uncommon. Okay, the leader is strange, and the people are also like that. So we can say that, let's take note of this part saying that people were barbarous, although the king or the leader is as barbarous as the people are. Maybe it's because of the leader that these people were barbarous, but we still don't have any idea yet of that, okay? Now, let's move on to the third one. Here we have, the poor farmer loved his aged mother with tender reverence, and the order filled his heart with sorrow. The order to kill elderly people filled his heart with sorrow. He becomes miserable. He feels sorry for this kind of situation. But no one ever thought twice about obeying the mandate of the governor. So with many deep and hopeless sighs, the youth prepared for what at the time was considered the kindest mode of death. Okay, he loves his mother so much, but it's the norm of that society that all people have to obey whatever the king asks, no matter how ridiculous it is. And not the king, the governor. So from here, we can come here. Kings were followed no matter how ridiculous, or in this case, not the king, but the governor. And I believe this is a monarchy, and the governor is working with the approval of the king, or he works under the king. So these are what we find in our text. And then what do we do with this? I mentioned to you last week that after you find this quotes, you find this evidence, you document them, okay? Now, this is what you will do. You will document that in maybe a column like this. So the first sentence is, Shining was governed by a despotic leader who, the warrior, had a great and cowardly shrinking from anything just blah, blah, blah. Now you have to explain this. What does it mean? What does it mean that it is governed by a despotic leader? Then this is what you try to explain. So this world, the world of Shining, or of the aged mother, is ruled with power. The leader considers power more important. And there's an underlying belief that the physical power or physical prowess is of utmost importance. Everything else comes after that. And then I show, to support that, I show this quote. And at the end, I make a conclusion saying that this shows the leader's fear for natural deterioration or of physical properties, or natural worsening of physical properties. That is my next explanation. Then I relate that to something else. I make further elaboration by relating it to the bigger thing, and I link it to the idea of the contradiction between the mental and physical properties, in which some societies consider the physical property as more important than the mental property, and that is this society. So this is a society in which such a thing happens. For this part, I still have yet to find ideas. It is possible for you not to explain something like that clearly yet, but you will need to read further to find support for your thoughts. Basically, you have tried to interpret this sentence, but it is not enough. You need to find more support from the fields of psychology, anthropology, or sociology, or any other fields that can help explain that can support you or to affirm that your answer here is reasonable. I will find a source or a support from the field of sociology probably, because there are in fact societies like that. And after doing this, then I take a conclusion, and that would be my claim. The conclusion is that, okay, physical prowess is more important than mental prowess. And that's what this world holds. This world believes in physics more than mental. So that's my first claim. Here I have come full circle, and I already have one interpretation, okay? Something that will help me explain the question of what kind of society do they live in. But it's not the end, okay? This story is quite long. There might be evidence in other parts of the story that contradicts this. So I leave it open there. Now I go to the next part because, and yeah, this is my assertion, first assertion, okay? But not the end. This is my first assertion. And later on, I go to the next part. I check the second paragraph, the disturbing paragraph, disturbing set of sentences, because here it also says that the people, it was not common, it was not uncommon for people to leave older people to die. Unusual, right? So that's why I think it needs more elaboration. So this is the evidence. Then I go further by explaining this evidence. Here I can say that the leadership of this place can issue an order that might sound really ridiculous or silly or diabolical. But the people over there, they follow the king. They follow the leader, no matter what, okay? Because, and I can support that by saying that no one ever thought twice about obeying the mandate of the governor. And I hope you can see that here. The question now that comes is that, how is such a thing possible? How is it possible for people to follow the mandate of a governor that is barbarous like that, or diabolical like that? So I leave it as my explanation as well as a question. What I do next is find support from elsewhere. I Google, I check journals, I check books to find an explanation for how people can follow the mandate of governors, kings that are diabolical like that. So what I found out is that there is something called the divine rights of kings, in which in the medieval era, people believed that God manifested in kings, or kings had the legitimacy from God. So when people realize something like that, then people will do whatever the king wants them to do, no matter how unusual that might be. Unusual is to say the least. And that's in the Western hemisphere, okay? In the Western kingdoms. In the East, unfortunately, such a thing also existed in what people call the mandate of heaven, as it was in China, or in Japan. It is also part of the state Shinto. And this existed in the past. There was a situation in which people believed that kings or royalty were the representation of God on earth. Some even go as far as saying that kings are the divine bodies of, or sorry, I don't remember the word exactly, but basically, oh yeah, kings were living gods. That's what they used to call this situation. So this is what I could relate. I only needed to find the sources, such as from the Encyclopedia of Eastern Cultures or contemporary Japan or medieval Japan and so on. And I used that to explain or to support my interpretation of this sentence. And at the end, I make a conclusion, or here I will call it a claim, and it is called believe in the divine rights of kings, or people in this area believe in the divine rights of kings. So that is my second evidence to explain the society. However, it's not final. It's not final yet, because as you can see at the end of the novel, we find out that the governor changes his mind. So actually, the society of this short story is not just a society that believed in the divine rights of kings, but a society that even the so-called divine or the living God could actually follow or could actually agree on what humans believe, what the subjects of the king believe. So maybe if I continue doing this analysis, at the end I will say that this is a society that starts out as a society that believed in the divinity of kings, but eventually also believes in truth coming from people, especially related to the wisdom of elderly people, for example. Or even I can say that eventually the society transforms into a society that doesn't only see importance in physical prowess, but also in maybe mental prowess that elderly people have. And this is my assertion. I use this to give explanation later on. Okay, so yeah, after you did all this, now you draw a conclusion based on these assertions. You connect this assertion and draw a conclusion, and the conclusion should be the final one, and that is your main argument. And that is also your answer to the question of what kind of society do these people live in? And this main argument, or some people call the theory, or your theory, your grounded theory. This is what people usually quote you when they find values in what you do as a researcher. All right. And now, how do you present it? How do we report the result? Well, that's for later, okay? So I want you to focus on this data interpretation first. How to interpret the data in the stages as I mentioned to you. First of all, by finding the evidence, of course, and then you explain the evidence in your own words, using your own logic. And then third one is make further interpretation with the help of theories, concepts, or anything outside yourself. And that will support you. And then you draw a claim or assertion based on these three analyses, these two interpretations. And at the end, you draw a conclusion from those assertions to propose the main argument. And the main argument is yours. All right, I guess that's all from me, everyone. If you have any question, let me know. And looking forward to see you soon in the discussion. Bye.